Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Keelan Webster. Your top stories on Tuesday the 6th of February. Guilty, Joshua Stimpson sentenced to more than 25 years after murdering his ex-girlfriend in a Chatham car park.
We are serving a lifetime of pain, anguish and loss.
Stuck in the rough, council vote on controversial plans for struggling Who Golf Club.
Well, if it closes, I should pack up golf because I can't play anymore.
Troublesome traffic. Commuters spend more than 30 hours caught in congestion each year in the country, but how does Kent fare?
Every single one of our towns, Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, etc., Canterbury, I've been to all of these places and there is chock-a-block congestion all around them.
And in sport, we meet the Gravesend girl aiming for boxing gold.
But first this evening, a man who stabbed his ex-girlfriend to death in the Dockside Outlet Shopping Centre car park in Chatham has been found guilty of her murder. 26-year-old Joshua Stimpson has today started a minimum 26-year sentence after the jury found him unanimously guilty of Molly McLaren's murder. Stimpson had denied murder after the 23-year-old University of Kent student was stabbed to death in her car. Louisa Britton has more.
This was the moment police arrived at the Dockside Outlet Shopping Centre car park just moments after Joshua Stimpson stabbed his ex-girlfriend to death in her car last June. The footage captured on police cameras shows him covered in blood when officers arrived and arrested him. The attack happened on the 29th of June and the 23-year-old University of Kent student Molly McLaren was pronounced dead at the scene after being stabbed dozens of times. During the trial at Maidstone Crown Court, 26-year-old Joshua Stimpson from Waltham had admitted manslaughter, claiming diminished responsibility, but denied murder. He claimed he was bipolar and the court heard he had a personality disorder, something the defence argued meant he wasn't fully in control of his actions when he attacked Molly. But today the jury unanimously found Stimpson guilty of her murder and he was sentenced to life in prison. Molly's family made a statement after the sentencing this afternoon.
The verdict has brought us a small measure of comfort, but it seems that nothing will take away the pain or allow us to come to terms with our Molly being taken from us. We are serving a lifetime of pain, anguish and loss.
During the trial, the jury saw CCTV footage of Stimpson at Asda in Chatham buying the knife which he used to kill Molly. He also bought a pickaxe from Homebase in Chatham, which was recovered from his car after the killing. The court also heard how Molly had repeatedly sent messages to her friend saying she was worried about Stimpson's behaviour. Today, Stimpson is starting a minimum term of 26 years before he can be considered for release. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV.
Next this evening, dozens of campaigners have been protesting outside Medway Council over plans to build homes on a golf course. Falling participation and financial loss has led to Deangate Ridge being considered for housing. If councillors vote in favour, the Who course could be closed as soon as next month. Harry Peet has this report.
Almost 3,000 campaigners have signed a petition to keep Deangate Ridge Golf Course open and not to be sold off for housing. The golf balls have been flying around here at Deangate Ridge since the early 70s, and any potential closure could have a big impact on those who have developed memories and a connection with the course in its 40-odd years of existence.
I'm ex-Who, but I was the head boy of 100 of Who school in 1974, and I remember the Deangate being built in 1972. And as a boy, I played on the pitch and putt, and a lot of my school friends and friends of Who played there. It's not just a golf course; it's a social media place that people go to as well. And to hear of this undemocratic approach to potentially closing Deangate is totally wrong. And I think the outcome we're looking for today must be public consultation.
But a Medway Council vote will decide the future of Deangate Ridge as they consider using the course to meet housing targets. In a report on the council's website ahead of today's vote, they said that no discussions have been held with developers nor any decisions have been made, but did say that due to falling participation rates in golf, owners and operators finding it increasingly difficult to sustain the operation in the face of falling membership numbers and revenues. But protesters have been making their voices heard outside of Medway Council today to fight the potential loss of their course.
If it closes, I should pack up golf because I can't play anymore.
The building will put another 3,000 to 3,500 cars on the road. You can't get off the bypass and the roundabouts now.
You can't even get off the peninsula sometimes, and yet they want to shove thousands of more houses there before even looking at the access. Stupid, really.
Just give us a say. That's all we're asking for is for Alan to just to postpone the vote today and just give us a say.
Do you want your kids growing up playing Game Boys all the time? Let's go out and hit a few golf balls or go and have a walk, get some air. It's all wrong.
It is the largest publicly owned space on the peninsula, and what we have to do, we have to have a voice. Democracy tells us we have to have a voice.
However, it's estimated that the council could save just shy of £80,000 if they did close the course, and could make a new sports facility on the Hugh Peninsula. But protesters will be hoping their thoughts are listened to save what they say could be a rough deal for the fairways. Harry Peat for KMTV in Who.
Today marks the 100th anniversary of the Suffragette movement, which led to some women being able to vote. But Medway Council has caused controversy in its celebrations. Requests were turned down by the council to light up Rochester Castle in purple to honour the date because they said it could promote UKIP. We've been to the town to ask shoppers whether they'd like to see the anniversary marked by adding colour to the castle.
Yeah, I do like the idea, yeah, it's a very important event. And I think it should be celebrated and remembered the amount of struggle that women had to go through to get what they take for granted today.
I think it's an excellent choice, yes. I think we should be celebrating it and still have a long way to go.
Why not start something for the new generation to go on and get in start with? I would say yes, strongly.
Yeah, I think it'd make a place look prettier. It'd be good. It'd be good.
I think anything that really gets people interested in democracy is important.
Yes, I don't see it. I think it would be quite nice and I don't see any problem with it. It's a temporary thing, so yes, that's fine.
Yes, I would. I think it's really important to note historical events, and this was a huge historical event for women, so yes.
Yes, I think it might be a good idea. Why not do something to celebrate women's suffrage?
Yes, I think it's important to remember that you know, women sort of sacrificed themselves in the past, and you've got to have something to respect them for, and you know, to show that as like a landmark.
Shoppers in Rochester there, but what do you think? Would you like to see Rochester Castle lit up by purple lights to mark the anniversary? Let us know on social media by using the hashtag KentSays. Next tonight, schools in Kent have been marking Safer Internet Day by trying to help children use technology responsibly. Research commissioned by the UK Safer Internet Centre shows that children have a complex relationship with the internet. It found more than half of children surveyed felt sad or angry about what they came across online. To discuss these issues surrounding young people using the internet, I'm pleased to say I'm joined by social media expert Zoe Cairns, as well as Ria Cairns, who's a teacher and e-safety book author. Thank you very much for joining us to both of you. Firstly, Zoe, just tell us a bit more about what the day is all about.
Safer Internet Day is all about building that awareness around being safe online for youngsters and trying to build their awareness about what they should and shouldn't be doing online as well.
And what are the dangers for children online?
There's so many dangers about them giving out their personal information, connecting with people they might not know, you know, going to meet people in some circumstances where they go out and meet someone they don't know as well.
And Maria, you've been putting on a little piece for children today. How did they respond to that, and what exactly have you been doing?
I did. It went really well. I did an assembly today and I shared my story with the children. Stories seem to really capture children and they relate to the characters a little bit more and link to their own experiences. And they actually knew quite a bit about e-safety, which was really, really nice today. So yeah, they did really enjoy it.
And just for people that don't know about e-safety in particular, give us a bit more of an idea as to what that is.
E-safety is all about email. It's about making sure that, you know, people understand what links they should and shouldn't click on. It's even about what they should be pressing and what they should be watching online. So e-safety is much more common in schools now, and it's getting it across in a way that the children actually understand.
Yeah, the story we shared today was about their personal information and not sharing personal information, but there's quite a lot, you know, other parts of e-safety that we need to cover.
How do you differentiate between, I mean, sometimes you have to put your personal information in to find something. How do you try and teach when is the right time to do it and when isn't?
It's about when they feel uncomfortable, and this is what we've been trying to get across in the book as well. You know, if they feel uncomfortable and someone's asking personal information that you don't know to a stranger, it's then that they should actually tell their parents or their guardian that they're being asked for this personal information by someone they don't know. But it's also down to the parents, you know, it's down to the parents to be more aware about monitoring their children online and making sure they understand also what those implications are too.
You say about the parents trying to make sure they're monitoring it a little bit better. In what ways can they do that?
There's different tools out there. There's different applications that they can use in terms of monitoring their child's behaviour online, in terms of, you know, messaging and stuff like that. But there's also parental controls on these different, you know, on the PlayStations, on the game stations, the tablets. Lots of parental controls they can put in place to be able to make sure that they're not seeing or connecting with people they don't know.
Well, Zoe and Ria, it's a great day to spread awareness, and hopefully that can keep going into the future. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Short break coming up for you now, but we'll be hearing from Kent's commuters discussing how they feel about being stuck in traffic and what can be done to solve the issue. See you soon.
And let's see what's the way forward. Every single one of our towns, Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, etc., Canterbury, I've been to all of these places, and there is chock-a-block congestion all around them. It doesn't take well, dare I say, an idiot to realise that we've got to do something about it.
Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. Although they're not the worst in the country, roads in Kent have been part of a study looking at traffic levels across the world. On average, commuters spend 31 hours stuck in traffic each year in the UK. But what's it like in the county? Poppy Jeffrey has more.
You get in your car, turn on the engine, start your journey to work, and then a traffic jam. Statistics released by INRIX, a traffic monitoring company, show that UK drivers spend more than a day each year stuck in rush hour traffic. The average is 31 hours. And in Kent, commuters are used to long delays, but where are the worst places?
Maidstone, I should think. Number one, they got a lot of roadworks. Always seem to be some sort of different roadworks going on.
Yeah, Dartford Tunnel. Yeah, that's a nightmare. Trying to get over there.
You know, getting to Blue Water or getting out onto the motorway or the motorways onto London always a problem.
Although there are a number of projects underway looking at Kent's roads, including a Lower Thames crossing and a new junction on the M2, the immediate impact of being stuck in traffic is quite significant. Researchers found that the overall cost per driver came to more than £1,000 when you factor in things such as wasted fuel and work hours. Howard Cox is from Fairfuel UK, based in Cranbrook.
Every single one of our towns, Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, etc., Canterbury, I've been to all of these places, and there is chock-a-block congestion all around them. It doesn't take well, dare I say, an idiot to realise that we've got to do something about it. The quality of our roads are third world standards, and we've got £14 billion worth of pothole backlogs to repair. And I'm afraid this government is hell-bent on actually their, what I call a vanity project, which is £100 billion to be sent on HS2 to get to Birmingham 15 minutes quicker. This doesn't benefit the rural areas of Kent, it doesn't benefit the rural areas of anywhere in the UK. And what we should be seeing is more investment put into roads right across the country, and public transport too.
But what can be done to solve these issues?
What's happening at the moment, we have our population is growing rapidly. People can afford more cars, and the vans and trucks, etc. We're getting more deliveries to the doors, obviously, in terms of actually internet online stuff being delivered, and that's all a good thing. And what's happening is that our roads just cannot cope. And what we need to do have a serious long-term strategic plan. No government has had this, and it's not got to be a 5-year one to match Parliament lifetime. We should be looking at a 20-year plan to develop our roads.
For Kent's commuters, traffic is a normal part of the day, and it doesn't sound like there's any easy solution yet. This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV.
UKIP could lose political control of Thanet District Council after 12 UKIP councillors announced they're going to break away from the party. The group says they will sit as independent councillors and are expected to try and force a vote on a new administration, which could see some form of coalition taking over. It comes after UKIP council leader Chris Wells was at the centre of a dispute over the council's local plans. Well, to talk a little bit more about this, I'm joined now by our political editor, Paul Francis. Paul, just give us a bit more background as to what's happened.
Well, you can't mention UKIP without the words leadership crisis these days, and this is another episode in the long-running saga, which is all about Manston Airport and UKIP's promise when it came to power in 2015 to reopen Manston for some kind of aviation capacity. Now, the argument within the UKIP group is that the leader, Chris Wells, has not fulfilled his pledge to do that and has instead pushed through a local plan which has earmarked the site instead for 2,500 houses. Lots of his members don't agree with that, and that's why we're seeing this split.
And in talking of Chris Wells, is he under threat now? Well,
he's indicated that he's not going to go anywhere and is able to point to a decision that the council took when it came to power in 2015, which adopted a model of strong leadership whereby the leader was appointed, a bit like the Prime Minister, for a 4-year term, and he's saying that he's there for the duration.
And what happens now in this saga?
Well, who knows what's going to happen next. The rebel UKIP group, the Independent 12, say they're going to try and force a vote. I think a lot will depend on what the Conservative group does. They have the majority of councillors now, 29 out of 50-odd, and it could come down to what they intend to do themselves.
And in terms of timescale, how long do you think this is going to take, really?
Well, it's a bit like asking how long is a piece of string. We never know with UKIP, but in order for any attempt to oust Chris Wells as leader, there will have to be a full council meeting, and that would have to be arranged at some point in the not-too-distant future.
If it's not to be Chris Wells, who do you think it could be?
Well, if Chris Wells is forced out, it could be the leader of the Conservative group, a guy called Bob Bayford. He's a very experienced councillor, been around a long time. But I get the impression that the Conservatives may be not so keen on forming a new administration at this particular stage. And I think the reason for that is that they will face exactly the same problems that the UKIP administration has in terms of trying to find someone willing, able, commercially viable to operate Manston as an airport.
Well, Paul, it's certainly one to keep a close eye on in the next few days. Thank you very much for joining us. Now here's Jack with the sports.
First tonight, could a humble storage unit in Gravesend hold the key to a future Olympic champion? The town is home to star kickboxing, where all eyes are on 14-year-old Phoebe Comiskey. Already a 5-time world champion, she's now set her sights on competing at the Olympics. Keelan Webster went to meet her.
A natural talent from a young age, Phoebe Comiskey was just 6 years old when she began kickboxing. Ever since, the mighty Atom has destroyed all before her, claiming 3 world titles. Now 14, she's quicker, stronger and more explosive.
When I first started, I was good then, and my dad's always said like he sees something in me. And then I started competing. I had my first title fight when I was 9 or 8. And I fought a girl 1.5 stone heavier than me, and that was a good fight. And my dad's said since then I'm like a lion, and I've got heart of a lion, and I won't give up for nothing.
Phoebe's natural talent roared into life courtesy of hard work and a strong mentality. It's a deadly combination which has led her to the top.
And the first time we saw her at training, straight away could see that she was going to be good. She was going to be good. Never have guessed she'd be this good. Yeah, she's just come on leaps and bounds. Every task that's been put in front of her, she's taken and achieved, well, so much.
The precise punches and cutthroat kicking have yielded 17 titles overall, but it's Phoebe's sole defeat that she pinpoints as her most memorable moment.
Fought a girl from Holland, but I lost that fight unfortunately. But it was such an experience because I got in the ring and I only had 4 K1 fights and she had something in her 70 K1 fights. So I was proud of myself to get in the ring with someone that much experienced, and it was a cracking fight. I gave everything and yeah, it was a good fight.
Currently, Phoebe is focused on a British title fight later this month, but a switch to boxing is the long-term goal.
I've done everything in kickboxing. I've won everything I could wish I've won, and now I want to make the Olympics in boxing. I want to go boxing and I want to be like the best. I want to represent England and go and fight for our country.
It's been nothing but success for Phoebe so far, and don't rule out the mighty Atom dropping big bombs at a future Olympic Games. Keelan Webster, KMTV.
Kent's boxer Kevin Clark has been picked to represent England at the Commonwealth Games. The heavyweight fighter from Gravesham Amateur Boxing Club represented Jamaica at the last Commonwealth Games, but has now been included in the England team heading to Australia in April. The boxing team leader Darren Chappell told us there will be tough competition with strong teams from other home nations like Scotland, Wales and Ireland, and not forgetting the host nation Australia, who will have a huge home following. Football and Gillingham manager Steve Lovell has defended Tom Eaves after the striker picked up his 9th yellow card of the season in the match against Wigan. Eaves was shown a yellow card for dissent when he thought he'd been fouled, but the referee waved play on. The striker is now just 1 yellow card away from a 2-game ban. Lovell told us he works hard and he has got his goals this year, but he doesn't get much protection from the referees. He has been pulled all over the place, but he doesn't get any free kicks. And that is all the sport for now.
A civil servant from Bourton-under-Blean has been sentenced to 8 months in prison for driving the wrong way down the A2. Georgi Christoph admitted to dangerous driving and said he knew he should not have done it. Judge Martin Joy called the facts of the case extremely serious and dismissed a request for a community order or a suspended sentence. He also banned Mr Christoph from driving for a year. A reminder, you can watch Kent Tonight live and on catch-up at our website kmtv.co.uk. You can stay up to date with all the news, sport and weather from right across Kent whenever and wherever you are. You'll find breaking news, local features and repeats of our special programmes. It'll be a chilly one tonight across the county, but the coldest conditions will be around Tunbridge Wells, where temperatures will drop below freezing. Tomorrow morning we'll see clear skies and lots of sun, but it won't mean it'll get any warmer, I'm afraid, with temperatures staying at freezing in Canterbury and Folkestone. Things might feel a little warmer in the afternoon, but it will still feel chilly across the board with lows of 2. Looking at the rest of the week, and it'll remain overcast until Saturday at least, with Friday seeing some showers across the county and lows of 5 degrees in Tunbridge Wells. Coming up after the break, we speak to shoppers in Rochester to find out whether they think enough is still being done to promote equal rights. See you in a few minutes.
A lot more should be done actually because of recent events like the President's Club. It's obviously still a big issue that there's not equality, and a lot more needs to be done. So making people aware of it and the issues surrounding it can do no harm.
Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Keelan Webster. Your top stories on Tuesday the 6th of February. Guilty. Joshua Stimpson sentenced to more than 25 years after murdering his ex-girlfriend in a Chatham car park.
We are serving a lifetime of pain, anguish and loss.
Stuck in the rough. Council vote on controversial plans for struggling Who Golf Club.
Well, if it closes, I should pack up golf because I can't play anymore.
Troublesome traffic. Commuters spend more than 30 hours caught in congestion each year in the country, but how does Kent fare?
Every single one of our towns, Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, etc., Canterbury, I've been to all of these places and there is chock-a-block congestion all around them.
And in sport, Gills manager defends striker after 9th yellow card.
A reminder of our top story this evening. A man who stabbed his ex-girlfriend to death in the Dockside Outlet Shopping Centre car park in Chatham has been found guilty of her murder. 26-year-old Joshua Stimpson is today starting a 26-year sentence after the jury found him unanimously guilty of Molly McLaren's murder. Stimpson had denied murder after the 23-year-old University of Kent student was stabbed to death in her car. Louisa Britton has more, a warning that this report contains disturbing images.
This was the moment police arrived at the Dockside Outlet shopping centre car park, just moments after Joshua Stimpson stabbed his ex-girlfriend to death in her car last June. The footage captured on police cameras shows him covered in blood when officers arrived and arrested him. The attack happened on the 29th of June, and the 23-year-old University of Kent student Molly McLaren was pronounced dead at the scene after being stabbed dozens of times. During the trial at Maidstone Crown Court, 26-year-old Joshua Stimpson from Waltham had admitted manslaughter, claiming diminished responsibility, but denied murder. He claimed he was bipolar, and the court heard he had a personality disorder, something the defence argued meant he wasn't fully in control of his actions when he attacked Molly. But today the jury unanimously found Stimpson guilty of her murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Molly's family made a statement after the sentencing this afternoon.
The verdict has brought us a small measure of comfort, but it seems that nothing will take away the pain or allow us to come to terms with our Molly being taken from us. We are serving a lifetime of pain, anguish and loss.
During the trial, the jury saw CCTV footage of Stimpson at Asda in Chatham buying the knife which he used to kill Molly. He also bought a pickaxe from Homebase in Chatham, which was recovered from his car after the killing. The court also heard how Molly had repeatedly sent messages to her friend saying she was worried about Stimpson's behaviour. Today, Stimpson is starting a minimum term of 26 years before he can be considered for release. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV.
Well, our reporter Cameron Tucker's been outside Maidstone Crown Court now, where Stimpson was sentenced earlier today. So, Cameron, give us the details of what happened at court earlier.
Well, there were sobs and shouts of yes from the public gallery as the guilty verdict was read out after the jury took almost 4 hours of deliberation to reach their verdict. Judge Adele Williams told Stimpson that he had committed a cruel and cowardly act, an act of wickedness that had taken Molly McLaren's life in the most vicious and deliberate fashion. As the sentence was passed, Stimpson showed no emotion before smiling at his father in the gallery as he was led off to begin his 26-year sentence before being considered for release. His family released a statement on behalf of a representative outside Maidstone Crown Court.
The verdict has brought us a small measure of comfort, but it seems that nothing will take away the pain or allow us to come to terms with our Molly being taken from us. We are serving a lifetime of pain, anguish and loss. This has affected so many people's lives, and our hearts go out to each and every one of you. Our focus now turns to making sure Molly will live on through the Molly McLaren Foundation, helping people with eating disorders.
The family also said they'd been touched by the number of friends that had come forward in support at this time of hardship, and that they would be giving a lot in terms of the Molly McLaren Foundation and support in raising awareness for online stalking.
During the last few months. Thank you very much for rounding it up for us. Next this evening, a woman who caused another driver's death when a mattress fell from her car roof has been spared a prison sentence. Clive Morgan died when his car clipped the mattress, swerved off the road and hit a tree on the A229 at Bluebell Hill in January last year. Rebecca Miller pleaded guilty to causing death by careless driving. A judge has indicated Miller will be spared prison when she is sentenced tomorrow. Police are appealing for help to trace a vehicle after 2 elderly women were robbed in Dartford. 5 masked men armed with bats forced their way into a house and threatened the women before taking jewellery off them. It happened at around 10:40 on the evening of January the 25th in Priory Road. Police officers have identified CCTV of a dark-coloured estate-type vehicle which was seen in the area at the time. Police are also asking for anyone with information to come forward. The parents of a Maidstone baby who was found with 8 fractures to his limbs before developing septicemia have appeared in court. A court heard the baby, who was just 41 days old when the injuries were discovered, was deliberately injured by one of his parents, Tony Smith and Jodie Simpson. The prosecution said the parents delayed taking the child to their doctor from their flat in Square Hill Road after he became ill. Experts said the injuries, which were less than 10 days old, would have required a degree of force that was not consistent with normal handling of a baby. The pair deny causing or allowing serious physical harm to a child and cruelty to a person under 16. The trial continues. Don't forget that you can keep up to date on all things going on in Kent by visiting our website kmtv.co.uk. You can check out some of our latest stories from across the county, like this video about a Dartford college hoping to encourage students into engineering as the government launches a year-long campaign to get more young people into the industry.
These students might be training to become young engineers, but the sector is facing a major workforce shortage across the country, sparking fears that Britain isn't training enough professionals to renew its infrastructure. In an attempt to connect more young people with the industry, the government has called 2018 the Year of Engineering. This Lee UTC in Dartford is one of the institutions in Kent which is hoping to attract more people into the sector, which is not only facing an ageing workforce but also often seems to lack diversity, with less than 10% of engineers being women.
We were really excited to hear that this year was going to be the Year of Engineering because particularly for Kent, Dartford, the surrounding areas, there are a lot of engineering companies, and actually last year there was a shortfall of something like 20,000 jobs for young people to go into engineering. So the fact that this year there's going to be an emphasis on engineering projects all around the country, including obviously in Kent area as well, means that there's going to be a real push to try and fill those vacancies, to try and excite young people about engineering and what the possibilities are and actually what it involves and what it means.
Nationally, the government estimates there could be almost 200,000 new engineers needed every year to meet demand. As part of the campaign, the sector is keen to break stereotypes about what engineers do and who they are, as well as encourage more young women to pursue a career in the industry.
I don't like the fact that there's only 10%. I think there should be more, because at the moment I think there's men probably think that women shouldn't be involved in it because it's not like a sector that women should be in. It's like men going into fashion designing or hairdressing. I think they should do it. They should just follow their heart and just bring out their skills and everything, because to be fair, everyone can do it. I didn't know that last year this time that I would be here, but I am, and I actually enjoy it.
When I first started engineering, I was the only girl in my class. So for me to now be in a class where the majority are boys, however there are a few more girls, it's definitely a large gender gap, and that's something that needs to be sorted about that, because there's so much potential for female and male engineers both in the sector.
With the Lee UTC hoping to open a new course to attract even younger students, it seems more people could be attracted to engineering as a career in Kent, but there's still a long way to go before the skills shortage is totally bridged. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV in Dartford.
Back to the news now that Kent has been celebrating the suffragette movement exactly 100 years after some women were given the right to vote. A century on, and the county now has 5 women in Westminster, with MPs representing us from Rochester to Canterbury. But is enough still being done to promote equal rights? We are shoppers in Rochester.
That's a really difficult question. I think it will always be ongoing. The point is it's on the agenda, that's what counts.
A lot more should be done actually, because of recent events like the President's Club. It's obviously still a big issue that there's not equality, and a lot more needs to be done. So making people aware of it and the issues surrounding it can do no harm.
I think it should be taught widely more, because people forget, because it's such a long time ago. But yeah, I think they should learn a little bit more about it.
I think there's still some way to go, and I think women were equally, if not more, harder than men quite often, and I think sometimes they're not recognised for that. So I think there'll always be a bit of a problem with it, and it's going to be hard to equalise it.
Well, I think enough is being done, yes, because we already have equality. I think it's men need to look out for their rights now.
I think we could do an awful lot more, and I think it's taken us far too long to get to the point in time that we've reached now.
Yes, I do really, because there's quite a lot of activity going on in that respect. So yes, I think probably yes.
Jack will be here with more sport, and we'll be having a cuppa on Made in Kent. See you in a moment. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV on Wednesday the 6th of February. In case you missed it, 26 years in prison, Joshua Stimpson found guilty of the murder of Molly McLaren.
Today, the jury unanimously found Stimpson guilty of her murder and he was sentenced to life in prison.
From fairways to a front room, council vote on plans to turn Deangate Ridge Golf Club into housing.
What's it going to be like with that amount of houses being built on there? I think it's ridiculous.
Traffic jam trouble. Kent's commuters lose more than £1,000 each year by being stuck in traffic.
We're calling on the government centrally to actually have a strategic plan, and one of that strategic plan is actually to look at things like stop-start technology.
And in sports, we have the latest from Kent's cricketers in the Caribbean.
It's now time for your pick of the papers, with a look at what's making the news in print, online and radio across Kent. Earlier on today, I spoke to KMTV's Duarte Diaz, who started off by telling me about a long-standing RNLI volunteer who's handed over the wheel following more than 40 years with the charity.
First story is about Trevor Lamb. That's this man right here. And the reason why we're talking about him today is because he joined the RNLI in September 1977. That was about 20 years ago. But he's just stepped down after 40 years of service, around 40 years. For perspective, that was around the time of the Queen's Silver Jubilee. Now, Trevor spent most of his time at the Margate station, and for 12 years he was at the helm of their all-weather lifeboats. Now, the story of how he joined is quite funny. He, at the time, married the coxswain's daughter, or whoever was a coxswain at the time, and his father-in-law actually asked him to join the crew, and he did. And after spending 5 years on the inshore lifeboat, he was then moved to the all-weather vessel, and he's been involved in all sorts of incidents, even some of the more famous ones, like the collision between the cruise ship Norwegian Dream and the container vessel Ever Decent in 1999. At that time, they spent more than 30 hours sort of following that incident. So it seems like it was quite an eventful journey there. And he says he's saved more than 350 lives over the 40 years that served. So obviously paid his dues and is now retired from that volunteering service.
It's a great tale. I bet he's got a few good stories to tell as well. What's your second story today, please?
Second story is a bit of a quirky one. Now, there's a collection of penny arcade machines which are going up for auction that date back more than 100 years. And this one specifically, now this is called the Pride of Paris. And this is what is believed to be one of the earliest forms of erotic films, because essentially it works like flip card books, where a series of cards show what appears to be a moving image. And then we have another one, which is the French Leclerc shooting game. Now, what this is a 25-cent coin which you slot in, and then you can shoot in between a slot. So obviously dates back quite a bit. This one is expected to fetch between £800 and £1,200. So it's definitely a very specific collector's item, but I'm sure there's someone out there who will be desperate to pick it up. So a very interesting one.
Is it you? Is it you? Are you gonna
No, not me, but I find it equally interesting.
Well, I know you're a keen gamer, Duarte. I'm not sure I'll buy that. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
A reminder, you can watch Kent Tonight live and on catch-up at our website, kmtv.co.uk. You can stay up to date with all the news, sport and weather from right across Kent. Whenever and wherever you are, you'll find breaking news, local features and repeats of our special programmes. Now here's Jack with the sports. First, Jack, Kent box has been called up for the Commonwealth Games.
That's right. The Graysham fighter, Kevin Clark, has been picked to represent England at the Commonwealth Games in Australia in April. He actually represented Jamaica at the last Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014. And the England boxing coach says the toughest competition is likely to come from the other home nations and the host Australia.
And talking of close combat, someone else that's been in the wars in recent games, Tom Eaves, 9 bookings now this season. What's Steve Lovell had to say about that?
Well, he's leapt to the defence of his striker. He says that Eaves gets frustrated on the pitch because he isn't protected enough by referees, so he feels he gets fouled but doesn't get free kicks for what he perceives as a foul. So he's sticking by his man. Now, some good news for Maidstone United. Defender Alex Finney could return for the club in a matter of weeks. The on-loan Queen's Park Rangers player is recovering from a broken jaw and is set to return to training with his parent club. Maidstone manager Jay Saunders told us, "I'm anticipating 3 weeks to a month until his return. It will be a big lift for us. He's been an important player for us this season. We had a run of about 6 clean sheets when he was playing, so he's been a big miss." Kent's cricketers are currently playing against the Leeward Islands in the county's third match of the Super 50 Tour of the Caribbean. Kent bowled the Leeward Islands out for 183 with Will Gidman and Ivan Thomas taking 3 wickets each. A short time ago, Kent were 63 without loss in reply. We'll bring you the result of that game in tomorrow's programme. And that is all the sport for now.
It'll be a chilly one tonight across the county, but the coldest conditions will be around Tunbridge Wells, where temperatures will drop below freezing. Tomorrow morning we'll see clear skies and lots of sun, but it won't mean it'll get any warmer, I'm afraid, with temperatures staying at freezing in Canterbury and Folkestone. Things might feel a little warmer in the afternoon, but it will still feel chilly across the board with lows of 2. Looking at the rest of the week, and it'll remain overcast until Saturday at least, with Friday seeing some showers across the county and lows of 5 degrees in Tunbridge Wells. And finally, it's time for Made in Kent, where we take a look at the county's tasty treats and delicious drinks. In the UK, we each drink close to 900 cups of tea a year, and in a minute we'll be trying out some special blends from Marie's Tea Rooms. But first, here's Cameron Tucker, who's been for a cuppa.
Oh, the factories may be roaring with the boom-a-lacka, zoom-a-lacka-wee, but there isn't any roar when the clock strikes 4. Everything stops for tea. Oh, a lawyer.
On this week's edition of Made in Kent, we're putting the kettle on and making a brew at Marie's Tea Room. The Gravesend institution blends an assortment of speciality teas right here in the centre of town.
We've got a wide selection of different flavours, everything from a weird and wonderful blueberry pancake to a nice standard English breakfast. There's 48 different types of tea. If you don't like tea, there's bound to be one for you.
Marie's is named after the grandmother of founder Graham.
I've always wanted to own my own business, and to be honest, my memories of my nan really influenced that, which is why the tea room was born. So even down to the way she cut her bread, being in the kitchen, down to her giant rhubarb plant that would be growing in the garden, and wanting to use sort of homegrown things and stuff. So that's definitely influenced me.
While being able to experiment with different blends, putting a new flavour in the bag isn't a simple process.
It takes quite a long time to get a flavour right. It actually took us an extra year to launch our Christmas flavours because we weren't happy with them, trying to balance the flavours out, trying to work out what works with each other.
Graham admits there's a challenge though in terms of pricing.
I think sometimes, particularly with the tea room, people expect things to be a little bit more, to be honest with you, so that can occasionally put some people off, but once they're in here and they taste the tea and, and taste our homemade cakes, they love them. So it's just trying to get them in here in the first place.
With another 20 flavours of tea soon going on sale, Marie's will be looking to continue testing its blends and being tasted by tea lovers everywhere.
And I'm pleased to say that Greg and Graham join me in the studio now. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, guys.
Hello.
Firstly, I'm going to try a bit of this one, which is cherry pie. Just tell us a little bit in general what you brought in for us today. Plenty here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have a range of teas that we brought with us today. Currently, we actually have 48 different styles of tea, ranging from black teas, blue teas, green teas, whether they're herbal, whether they're fruit, whether or not they're themed around certain things, like our Pocahontas range, for example. As I say, loads for you to try.
I've just had a bit of that, and you can really feel the cherry flavour in that, which is absolutely what you want to get from it. Tell us a little bit about this one, if you can.
So that one's our salted caramel brownie tea. That one actually has become one of our most popular teas at the moment, particularly if you need that chocolate fix and you're trying to, watch what you're eating at the moment, as everyone does in January, and it kind of gives you that sort of hint of chocolate, which is great.
How are you able to give that hint of chocolate?
So it's quite easy. That tea is basically a standard black tea, but we've added in some salted caramel pieces and also some cocoa shells to add that chocolatey flavour.
And what sort of prices are people looking like if they want to get these teas?
So all our teas range from £4.95 and go up towards £8.95, unless you're then talking about sort of more specialty teas like flowering jasmine or dragon pearls matcha, which can raise towards £15.95.
And where do these ideas come from for these extraordinary teas, I suppose?
I think a lot of them we kind of have a bit of a play, don't we? So Greg's first one, for example, was blueberry pancake, which he absolutely loved, and mine was green tea and pomegranate. Some are just flavours that we've had before that we really enjoy, and we've decided to put into a tea form. We have a play on the stall, and then kind of work out what we're doing and kind of go from there. It can take a while though, sometimes, can't it?
I mean, we've been testing new teas even today. We've been trying a milk oolong today, which has gone really well. We're really happy with. So we're hoping to push that out fairly soon.
And it's not just the warm teas you can get. We've got some iced tea here. What's here?
So that's our lemongrass and mint tea. So the teas themselves don't always need to be hot. You've got an iced tea there. We can also use things like a lapsang souchong as a stock in cooking as well. And then we've got some white chocolate and matcha cupcakes there as well.
We actually invented these really awesome brew cards which teach people how to make different things with all our different types of tea, which they're more than willing to come pick up from our stall, and if they order from us, we send them out in the post too.
I was going to say, it's particularly minty, that flavour, which is fantastic. And what do you find is the most popular one?
That is the hardest question.
It is.
In all honesty, if I wanted to tell you the truth, the most popular one is English breakfast, which is the most boring type of tea ever. But recently, as we said, the salted caramel brownie is doing really, really well because we've only just brought that out in our latest line.
And finally, if people do want to come along, where do they go?
So we're based in Gresham Borough Market, and then we also sell online at www.mariestea.co.uk.
Well, to both of you, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Some wonderful teas. That is it from us for today. KMTV.co.uk is the place to go. If you missed any of today's programme, we'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.